Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for part 5 in the Preppers Purse and Go Bag series. Maybe that's what I'll call it. I keep changing that name, people, but you get it. And by the way, if you check out the playlist and you see anything in there that's labeled as private, it probably means I still have more videos, because I'm 3 weeks ahead on my videos, that I probably still have more videos in the series that I have made and I have uploaded, but they're still set as private because they're scheduled to publish later. Because I had somebody question about that. I had 4 videos up, but only 2 were public, and so they were afraid they had missed something. It's like, nope, they're just set to private. Okay, so at the time that I'm shooting this particular one, the 3rd video is just published, but you will have seen the 4th video by now, unless you haven't been paying attention to the series. So don't forget to look at the description box down below, hit the show more, or if you're on the Android phone or whatever, maybe it's just a little arrow down there that will give you the drop down so you can see all the links and things that we put in there. So today is going to be a little bit different, because initially I was thinking about moving on to the bug out bag, but because of some different people's ideas and stuff that they've been throwing out there, I'm using some of their new ideas, but also decided I should show you some things that they mentioned that I do actually carry. I just didn't bring them up because I thought maybe they were kind of boring items, but I'll go ahead and talk about these in case, you know, that might be an idea for you. So one of these things, going back to this, the very basic small little purse that I have, is I have I carry a sandalwood comb. I don't like plastic combs at all anymore, and I switched to the sandalwood combs, and I love them. I have 3 of them total. There's 2 that I use here in the house that have the handle, but this one is a little more compact and works better for keeping in my purse. And I will link to the 2 different sandalwood combs, assuming they're still available on Amazon, and if not, I'll find something similar and link to that. But these are really good for your hair, and when you first get them, they have such a nice smell. This one actually, as old as it is about 3 years old now. It still has a really good smell. I hardly ever need to use a comb when I'm out and about, but you just never know. It's nice to have one. So that does stay in my purse as well, in this little wallet thing, as a pair of tweezers. I think tweezers are very important. I use them quite often, and it's a good thing to have on hand. There's so many things you can use a pair of tweezers for. So that goes in this little pouch right here with my tape measure and some other things I mentioned in previous videos. So I'm not going to go back and talk about everything in this. You need to watch the whole series to see what else I've got in my main purse and in my wallet. Even though this is a fanny pack, it wasn't bought to be used as a fanny pack. It was bought to be used as a wallet or a small purse. It carries kind of funny for a purse, but maybe one of these days I'll revamp it. But there are some little modifications I made on my own that I talk about in those other videos. Another thing that I carry is I do keep some lozenges. I know they're not the best as far as the healthiest, but I think they're one of the best on the market, and that's the Ricola, especially the original blend. For when my throat really starts to act up and I'm out somewhere, at least I have those. Those do help. When I'm at home, I don't use those. I only use my own homemade syrup that I've talked about in other videos to help with the nodules on my vocal cords. But at any rate, those I keep on hand for that. And then another thing I tend to keep in my purse are the organic mints, or whatever you want to call them. This is my favorite brand because they're so simple. They're all organic. Newman's Own has a really great ginger one, but as I looked closer at the ingredients, even though it says it has organic corn syrup, I really don't like the idea that it has corn syrup in it all. It doesn't say it's non-GMO. So that, I'm just like, oh, I never noticed that was there before. However, like with the St. Clair's Organics, this peppermint is very strong. It's about as strong as your Altoid is, except all it's made with is organic molasses crystals and peppermint oil. That's it. And it's all organic. And then the ginger has a little bit more in it, but again, it's got the molasses crystals. It also has organic cane sugar and some ginger essential oil. And these are really good. The texture is going to be a little bit different than your Altoids, but it's somewhat similar. These ones are a little harder for me to come by, where the Newman's Own I can get in our local grocery store. These ones I have to find at a health food store when we go into town, and we don't always have time to stop there. But thankfully, one time when I was in there, I stopped up on quite a bit. So I usually keep the ginger ones in my purse. The thing that's great about ginger is that it's also good for helping to soothe the stomach. It's good for the throat, and it's good for soothing the stomach. So usually that's what I try to rely on, are those, because they're all organic, very simple ingredients. Anyway, so there's that. Now, I might still come back to my purse and add more things in it, like I keep doing as I get more ideas. But I'm going to come back to this bag now, and some things that I'm kind of switching around. Now, some of this stuff is because I've got some things in my bug out bag, but I don't have those things in here. And there's a reason for that I'll talk about when I get to the bug out bag or the go bag and talk more in depth about that. But one of the things I do not have in here, I thought I did at one time, but I don't anymore. Things have been switched around so often, is I don't have any paper feminine products. Now, I haven't used paper feminine products in many years, but I kept what I had, because instead of tossing it when I went to the making my own and all that, the cloth napkins and stuff, I kept all the old ones for us to put in our bags to use as fire starters. Because if you have these on hand, or even if you don't use them, you may want to consider purchasing them, whether they be this style or the pad style, because they make excellent fire starters. They're really great. Now, while I have a few lighters in this bag as well as in my purse, I don't have any tinder for starting fire, and that's what these things are great for. So this little baggie here, I actually had a couple of sets in another bag, so I'm pulling this smaller set out to go in this bag, which actually should go in this pouch right here, which I talk about in another video. I think that's in the third video in the series. I don't think it's in the fourth. I think in the fourth I talk about the stuff in the other pockets. And then an idea I got from one of our subscribers, from Edie, thank you Edie for this, was the addition of, she likes to keep her green powder with her. And I thought, what a great idea. Now, I have my own mixed greens blend that I've never powdered up, because I like using it more flaked. So when I dry my different greens that I get from the garden, whether it be dandelion leaves or strawberry leaves or turnip greens or beet greens or whatever it is, sting and nettle and stuff, I usually, once it's dry, I just flake it up with my fingers and I put it in my jars, and I have lots of jars. I'm actually working on 2017 blend right now, because I put a lot up, and that goes in a lot of the things I cook and bake to add extra nutrients, and also to make the most out of the various things coming from the garden. And I also use these in teas. Well, she carries some of it in a form of a powder with her to add to various things, whether it to add to water or add to the tuna that she carries if she needs it, to mix it in there for the sake of more nutrients. And I thought, what an excellent idea. And if you watch some of my other videos, you know that I keep certain other food items in here that would be great for mixing this with. And I'm not going to give it away, because I'm going to make you have to go back and watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. So that's one of the things, but also being able to add to the water bottle and to get more of those nutrients when needed, because if you're in that situation, those nutrients are going to be incredibly important. Obviously, calories are important if you're looking at a food shortage, and this isn't going to have a lot of calories in it, but it's going to have a lot of vitamins and minerals. So what I did is I have been saving my Mother Earth Products foil pouches, Mylar pouches, when I use up the ingredients, so that I could recycle them, because, well, they're Ziploc. And so I decided that's what I'll use for this. Put my green powder in there, and then I can fold it up, and it doesn't take up very much room. And so obviously the perfect place for that to go is in this pouch with the other such items that I have in there. And while I was at it, I do have organic moringa powder. I don't grow moringa yet. I'm hoping to try it this year. I did get some seed from Danny and Wanda. So come spring, I'm going to be getting some started here in the house, and I'll probably have to grow it in a greenhouse here. and maybe even bring it inside during the winter. I'm hoping that will work for us. But anyway, I do have a lot of organic moringa powder that I've stocked up on, and so I decided to go ahead and put that, since I already powdered up the blend, I added this in as well to the rest of my own greens, because all the other things in here are things that I grow myself. So that is one of the new things I've added thanks to one of our subscribers. And then I'm not going to talk about all this stuff I have here, because this is just here to remind me that I wanted to mention this. With the idea of the green powder, it gave me another idea, and I did order up some more little smaller Mylar bags like this big, and I'm going to be putting some medicinal herb blends together for various things, whether it be for topical use, for pain, or whatever. So I've got at least 3 different ideas, and once those bags come in, I'll be shooting a video on the blends that I'm going to put together, the herb blends, and then put them in the small little Mylar pouches that can go in here or in the go bag or even in my main purse. If you're kind of confused about the whole purses idea, go back and watch the whole series so you can kind of see I have a series of purses, and while I try to keep them with me in the rig at all times, I don't carry all these all the time. It just depends on the situation. So no, I don't carry 2 bags at once. So again, watch the whole series so you can figure out how that works. And then the next thing I wanted to mention, just because with this in mind, it does kind of go right into car prepping, vehicle prepping. And there's typically other things that we'll keep when we're going on long trips, or that Patrick used to always keep in his little commuter car when he'd go to work, because when he used to work outside the home, he had to travel every day. It's about a 45-minute drive outside of town, and so he kept a lot of stuff in his car, which was good because he'd tend to break down that little car. It was a great little car for saving fuel, but it was an old car, and there was a few times it broke down on him, and so having that stuff on hand was always good, you know. And he'd keep a little stove in there, and just a little tiny stove, and we talk about some of that in another video in our older series on how and why we prepare. And we've got I think 11 videos total out that talk about various things, that we never got to the one on the car. So I'll go ahead and work into some of the things here about car prepping, because that's mostly what my bags are used for, is in the rigs, because whenever we're already going somewhere, that's when these things are going to be necessary. So one of the things that we try to keep in all the rigs is a good wool blanket. Now, it's really hard to find for a good price 100% wool blankets, which I recommend. But this one, I'm going to link to it below if it's still available on Amazon. We bought several of them because it was the best price I'd seen for a wool blanket that is 70% wool. That's hard to find, and they were $20 a piece. It's just your general size blanket. And so I still need to finish getting our new car ready, so it doesn't really have anything in it. And so this is going, I think this came out of his old commuter car, so this is going to go into our new car. It's a new used car that we got for a screaming good deal, but we do need to get it outfitted for, you know, when we're going to town, because we do occasionally make trips into town, which is, you know, about it's an hour to an hour and a half, depending on which town we're going to, because there's a couple towns back to back that we usually it's Swim, which is the farther one away, that we need to go to. And so you never know. I mean, there's times we're coming back, going around the lake, trees have fallen. We've actually, one time we used to take our Taekwondo, our instructor was in there, and we used to drive in there and once a week, and when on the way home, one time it started snowing as soon as we got into town, and on the way home it was terrible. It was terrible. There were cars and ditches all over the place. I couldn't believe how much snow dumped on us during that time, but we did manage to make it home. But however, if we wouldn't have, having all this stuff in hand, you know, if we ended up having to camp out, because sometimes trees fall on the road, or we have a mudslide or something that happens around the lake and it's just 2 lanes, and sometimes there's like no getting through for days. And so it's always a good idea for us to carry this stuff with us, because this has happened on several occasions. People go into town and then they get stuck there and they can't get home. There is another route that you can take, but a lot of times if it's bad around Lake Crescent, then going the other way is going to be bad too. And so sometimes it's completely blocked off and we can't get back to our little small town of Forks. So anyway, a wool blanket is an excellent thing to keep. I've made quilts that I've also kept in the rigs too. But the nice thing about the wool blankets is you know how wool, it tends to repel water better. It's very warm and it folds up smaller than my denim quilts do. So, and they're not as heavy. So these are better for carrying in your rig than the denim quilts that I make. Though we've had both. We've done both. We've had the denim quilt and the wool blanket. A lot of times it just depends on how far we're going and how long we think we're going to be gone. Sometimes we'll just go ahead and put a couple blankets in there. And of course I do have the other kinds of emergency blankets. I have several that I keep with me. So anyway, that's it for today on this series. Maybe on the next video, I'll start moving into the go bag that I have right here. So all of this stuff are things I'm updating anyway. So this is kind of the perfect time. This series is working out to be very beneficial to me as well, because as I'm kind of going over my bags again, which is always recommended, I'm getting more ideas from people or reminders of things that, oh yeah, I've been meaning to do that for a long time, and then getting that done and getting it in there. Because from our very first series that we did that I mentioned, that I also put down below, we got some more ideas from that I've updated my bag since then. But I still have more, I'm still updating more all the time. We always come up with new ideas. Sometimes there's things you might want to go, you know what, this is really unnecessary, and take that out and put it with, and replace it with something that's going to be more useful to you in a very serious situation. Remember, when it comes to this kind of stuff, just like putting up food storage, and trying to get up to a 2-year, it can take time to put things together. And don't feel that you got to run out and buy everything that's out there and do it all at once. Just do it in baby steps if that's what you got to do. Because for most of us, that's the way we do it. It's little baby steps. As long as you start with something, as far as like your purse prepping, get a lighter in there or get a knife in there, because that knife, you might not ever need to use it for self-defense. Like I've never needed to use mine for self-defense, but the knife has come in handy for so many other things. The knives, plural. I've used all of them for various different things. And also another note that some people, if you're newer, you might not know, as far as self-defense goes, I do actually have 2 black belts. I have a black belt in Taekwondo, and I have a black belt in Wu Wei Gung Fu, which is a form of like Jeet Kune Do, because it's based off of Bruce Lee's taproot, or Wing Chun. And it was developed by Joseph Cowles. I've talked about him before, and he's since passed away, but he actually worked with Bruce Lee. He was one of his students and good friends, and he also had a black belt in other forms of martial arts. And then he took classes from Bruce Lee, and then he went on and started his own form of martial arts that is actually pretty popular in various places, and even in Israel. And so we actually had the pleasure, me and my oldest son, of working directly with him, because he moved out to this area. And so we got our black sashes through him. So we both Ryan and I have 2 black belts each, and then our youngest son has a black belt in Taekwondo as well. So we have other forms of self-defense besides just knives and various other paraphernalia that we keep on hand. Okay, well, I hope you're enjoying this series, and don't forget to leave your comments, or at least read the comments down below. Thanks for watching, take care, and God bless.